this was so much fun, and this is just the beginning. I can't wait to
Yeah.
get back to this. But can you explain briefly what the zone of synchronicity is?
Yes, I can. It's my favorite thing. Okay. All right. So every year I've taught a workshop on this. And so I always like to challenge and evolve. I'm a real innovator. I sometimes I fail, like I try something, it doesn't work. But I'm like, what is missing here? Like, what is it? So I just really sat down and say, like, what would I talk about this? Because it's not about getting what I want, because I didn't get what I want. Thank God. Well, I got what I wanted later on when I didn't really care. But that was the other thing. It was about the surrender piece. That's why I say be careful what you pray for, because you just might get it when you don't care anymore, and it's going to really hurt you. But maybe that's the message. But I got everything that I wanted from my career as an intuitive, like everything that was an agenda attached to that. So I'm digressing now. So I sat down a couple of years ago and I said, when things come, how do they come? Seriously, like I looked back on my life and went, every time something happened that I had either put on a vision board that happened 20 years later, like everything happened. Everything on my boards have happened. So I'm like, how do they come? How are they delivered? And in what form? They're always delivered through a synchronistic coincidence, right? If people don't know what synchronicity is, it's a meaningful coincidence where they land in my lap, and rarely in the exact form that I said. Except for my first husband. He looked exactly like the guy, but I was only interested in the form. So it was a way to teach me not to be attached to form, right? He looked exactly like all the guys on the thing. I forgot to say how I wanted to feel. So that was an interesting experiment of vision boards, wanting to get married, and a man. But anyway, so I tracked it and I went, so where on the board do I make space for that? Because what I learned at Unity was, this or something better now manifests for me in divine appropriate timing. You probably know this too, right? Like, that's so true.
Mm-hmm.
But what do I mean by that? This or something better. Well, who says what's better? Like, am I saying, give me this or give me something that's better than this? Because I'm saying inside this border is what I want, or you give me something better than that, right?
Right.
It's always
Right.
inside. So
Right.
where is the part where spirit moves on that board? There wasn't any part. We were just assuming, and it was in the head. It was a head thing. I'm looking at that, universe, go get it. That kind of thing. And instead, I'm like, what if I grew it and put a big space for the universe to decide, right? That I'm going to be, because I want to be surprised. It's like, what if the thing that I want here isn't the thing at all, but I had to start somewhere. So I'm acknowledging, like, hey, this is what I think it is. This is the form I think it is. So I'm going to put it on because I have to put some type of form of the vision. But universe, you know better. You surprise me, and I'm going to be really excited by seeing it. And I'm going to track the synchronicities, right? The meaningful coincidences that show me the process to get to where I wanted to go, because it's
Yeah. Which we sometimes forget about, the little things that lead us there, right? And I remember when we were doing the workshop on the art of manifesting, you had us create a bigger border around the actual piece of paper, because we have to leave space for things to come in that might not be what we thought should happen, or right, we might miss it. And I'm like really taking my time thinking about this as I create it, but I'm also just being present to just not getting too much in my head and my ego. But there are things I intentionally would like to see come into my life, some of which we've spoken about. And I know they're there. I know they're in process. They're happening. I just don't know how it will happen.
right. So guess what? When you say, I don't know how, you celebrate, I don't know how. That's why you put the border. Hey, I don't know how, but you do. The universe. So you're acknowledging that the how is not your business.
That's right.
Right? How is not my business, and form is not my business. Here's a great example. And I love telling this story because it's 1000% true. And I think the only reason it happened was for me to tell the story. When the book came out, none of my books have ever been the kind of book that would be a New York Times bestseller, because they're very personal, they're very anecdotal, they're very, whatever, and very niche. So I never ever wanted one. I never thought it'd be a thing. But this is the first time I'm like, this book could be a bestseller. But I also knew that it would be organic and it would have to take time, right? But I decided to admit it. You know what? Yeah, I would love that. And if it doesn't happen, fine. But you know what? I'm going to be honest. Yes, I would. So I decide I do a drawing and I put New York Times on the drawing. So just like New York Times with a big heart, boom, boom, boom. So then I call my head of my brand and said, guess what I just did? I was in my hot tub and I heard New York Times. I thought, yes, I want it. And I'm going to put it on my drawing. And I'm going to tell you, and we laughed. We sat and laughed, the two of us, because like, well, maybe in a couple of years it could happen, because this is a grassroots thing that it's going to take time, right? And I knew that. So I said, but wouldn't it be fun? Would it be so fun? Then that means we would reach a ton of people, because that was the motive behind wanting it.
Mm.
Okay. So check this out. 2 hours later, Beth, as you know, Beth Grossman sends me an email. Hey, Colette, the New York Times would like to invite you to teach at their small group to their employees, right? To do the book. So it wasn't a New York Times bestseller, but I got on a plane and went to the New York Times and met them. And I told them right away, oh my God, I manifested you. So it's not a bestseller, and I don't care anymore, because the universe said, you know what? We'll give you the New York Times. You put that there, but you're going to get what you are now. You want to reach more people?
You could have gotten like a year subscription, but at least you got to go to
you get to go. And you know what? So maybe there's 10 people.
Yeah, but those are 10 people that you touched. 10 people you touched, moved, and inspired that you didn't have before. And I love how you phrase that, because being an author is not always about, selling the books and making a shit ton of money. It's about sharing your voice to pay it forward and pass it on. And I think that's more authentic. There are people who are authors that is their career, and have at it. More power to you. Right?
That's not me. But it was.
I'm the same way. I'm like, if it happens and I make a crap ton of money, I feel like that money gets reinvested into helping more people and reach more people. And that's my space of integrity. It sounds very similar to you. Having that and tooting your horn and saying I'm a New York Times bestseller or Wall Street Journal or whatever. That's great. But like, think about how many people you have touched already.
Yeah, and I love it. And I got to say this. So my partner, Anna Denning, I met her in my when I was stuck in bed, right? And she had a membership, and she taught all different types of line art, right? So I originally, because she was a neurographica instructor, and I said, hey, do you want to write a paragraph about that? HILis offered me a book deal because I taught them all this smorgasbord of stuff that I had come up with. But then we got to be friends, and learned that we both were Reiki master. We had all these things in common, and we were both doing the same things with activating the paper and all that stuff. And I went, do you just want to come in and do this with me? Right? Come on. Like it's obvious we like manifested each other. So, and she's awesome. So awesome. And we came at this, and this is what our attitude is. We want the whole world to do this. We want there to be no rules around it. We want there to be a container the container is the 7 steps. You should do the 7 steps. But beyond that, we want people to feel like they're excited, that they're not, that it doesn't need to be perfect, that it can just be the experience of it, and that they would see that the universe is always talking to them. And people forget, because we're so scared all the time. We don't think anybody's listening, or, that our agency doesn't exist. And all of a sudden you start seeing these little coincidences. It's like, holy crap.
And taking note of them is important too, and having gratitude for them is important too.